Egypt, 1520 BC. Before miracles, there was suffering.
Faster!
Before liberation, there was slavery.
Pull! Pull! Together! Faster! Heave! Faster! Move! Faster!
They're coming.
Where's the child?
And when fear reigned,
They are growing in number, my pharaoh.
a decree was issued.
Throw into the river every boy that is born.
But when men decree death, God begins to write life. Raised as an Egyptian, but called as a Hebrew.
What have I done?
Before leading multitudes, he was hidden in the desert.
Moses,
Who are you?
I am who I am.
Let my people go to make such a demand.
Egypt trembled, but one heart remained hardened.
Run! Do not stop!
And that night, judgment passed.
Charge! Attack! Charge! Kill! We are trapped!
Because when there is no way, God creates one.
Do not be afraid.
This is the beginning of liberation. Long before the sea was parted, long before the impossible became visible. Long before a man raised a staff before the waters, there was silence, a heavy silence, filled with pain, with weariness, with generations that no longer remembered what it was like to live free. Israel, the people of the promise, the descendants of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob, those who once walked under the blessing of the Most High God, now were bowed down, not before God, but before men. Egypt rose, imposing, unshakable. Its temples touched the heavens. Its cities grew like monuments of power. But behind all that greatness, there was sweat, there was pain, there was blood. It was Hebrew hands that sustained that empire. Days began before the sun rose and ended when there was no strength left. Bodies were pushed beyond their limits. Voices were silenced before they could even be heard. And names were forgotten. They were no longer called a people, nor sons, nor heirs. They were numbers, tools, living burdens. And time kept moving forward, slow but relentless. Fathers grew old under the weight of oppression, and sons were born already destined for the same reality. No choice, no escape, no voice. But even in the silence, something remained alive. A memory, distant but not erased. The memory of a God who had made promises. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, when exhaustion gave way to thought, some still dared to remember.
The God of our fathers.
But soon the silence returned, heavy, as if even hope had grown tired. Until something began to change, not in the hands of the slaves, but on the throne of Egypt. A new king arose, and he did not know Joseph. He did not know the story. He did not know the provision that once saved that land from famine. He did not know the favor that had allowed Israel to grow there. To him, those people were not memory. They were a threat. His eyes did not see covenant. They saw numbers, a multitude, the potential for rebellion. And fear began to grow within the palace.
My lord, the people of Israel are numerous and stronger than we are. We need to act before they multiply even more.
And so, fear turned into strategy, and strategy into even greater oppression. Taskmasters were raised, not to organize, but to crush. Heavier burdens, harsher commands, more severe punishments. The intention was clear, to break their spirit. But something unexpected was happening. The more they were oppressed, the more they grew. The more they were pressed, the more they multiplied, as if there were something unseen sustaining that people. And this terrified Egypt, because it was not natural, and what cannot be controlled is feared.
They are increasing in number.
Fear was no longer silent. It was urgent. It was aggressive. And then a new command was given, not to the soldiers, but to the midwives. Women who carried life in their hands now were placed before a choice.
When you help the Hebrew women, watch. If it's a boy, kill him.
Yes, my lord.
There was no softness in the command. There was no room for doubt. It was direct, cold, final. Silence fell over those women, because in that moment, it was no longer just a professional decision. It was moral, it was spiritual, it was eternal. To fear the king or to fear God. And they chose. They chose to preserve life, even at the risk of losing their own. And when they were brought before the king, the question came like an accusation.
Why did you let the boys live?
Hebrew women are strong, my lord. They give birth before we can arrive.
It was not just an answer. It was protection. It was courage disguised as simplicity. And God saw it. Because there are decisions that are not seen by men, but are recorded in heaven. And still, the king's heart did not change. Because when fear turns into power, it does not retreat. It advances. And then, the decree came.
They are increasing in number. Many births in Goen.
Then reduce them.
How, my king?
Every Hebrew boy who is born must be thrown into the river.
Now death had a voice. It had command. It had direction. The Nile, which sustained the life of Egypt, would become a witness of death. And fear spread like a shadow. Homes were shut, voices were silenced, eyes avoided one another. Every birth became a risk, every cry an alarm, every mother a silent guardian. And still, life continued to rise, because what God determines cannot be stopped by human decrees. And it was in that time, at the height of oppression, at the darkest point in the story, that a boy was born, without announcement, without protection, without security, but not without purpose. His mother took him in her arms, and something within her recognized it. There was something different, not just love, but conviction, as if, in the silence of that moment, God was speaking without words. And for 3 months, she hid him. Each day, a victory. Each night, a test. Holding back the cries, controlling the fear, living between hope and constant threat. Until the moment came when hiding was no longer possible. And then, she made a decision. She prepared a basket, simple but strong. She sealed its openings, protected its interior, as one who prepares something to cross the unknown. And then, she placed the boy inside, without guarantee, without control, without knowing what would come next. And she took him to the river, the same river that had been turned into a sentence of death. But in that moment, it became a path. And as she set the basket upon the waters, she was not giving up, she was trusting.
Lord, he is yours.
And the basket began to move, slowly, carried by the current, among the reeds, within the silence, into the unknown. And while that small life was being carried, heaven was not silent. And at that same time, Pharaoh's daughter went down to the river. Her eyes scanned the waters until something caught her attention.
There's something over there. Bring it to me.
The basket was drawn out, hands opened it, and the cry broke the silence.
This is one of the children of the Hebrews. My lady, the king's decree. I know what my father ordered, but this child will not die.
The crying continued, alive, persistent.
I will raise him. He will be my son.
And so, within the house that decreed death, life was preserved. The boy grew, and he grew surrounded by everything that human power could offer. Grand halls, columns that reached high, guards standing watch, servants attentive. He did not walk among slaves, but among rulers. He was taught from an early age, trained, shaped.
Observe, Egypt is sustained by order, and order requires control.
Moses listened, learned.
A ruler doesn't react. He anticipates.
Scrolls were opened before him, maps, lands, resources.
Every city has a function. Every man, a place.
He learned to count, to measure, to organize. He learned to manage what was not his, but what he might one day govern. Another master approached, more rigid, more direct.
Power is not given. It is kept.
Swords were raised, formations drilled, movements repeated.
A leader does not hesitate on the battlefield. If you hesitate, you lose everything.
Moses trained, strikes, posture, control. Not only strength, but decision. In the corridors of the palace, he learned something different. The art of speech.
Words build alliances or start wars. Choose well and speak at the right time.
He observed negotiations, conflicts resolved through strategy, decisions that affected thousands made in silence. And little by little, he became someone prepared to lead, prepared to govern, prepared to influence. But within him, something did not fit, because all that formation was building a man, but not answering the deepest question, who he was. He was called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He dressed like an Egyptian, spoke like an Egyptian, thought like an Egyptian. But when he looked at the people, something within him responded differently. A connection, silent but real.
And with time, this truth began to emerge. One day, he decided to see it with his own eyes, not as a prince, but as someone seeking to understand. And what he saw changed everything. A Hebrew being beaten.
Get up! You won't stop until the work is finished.
I have no more strength. Please.
Get up!
Stop it. He didn't do anything.
And you? Who do you think you are to interfere?
He is a man, not an animal.
To us, he is less than that.
The overseer shouted, and in that moment, everything Moses had learned was not enough to restrain him.
What have I done?
The blow was quick, decisive. The Egyptian fell, lifeless, and the silence returned. But now, it was a silence filled with consequence. There was no turning back. The next day, he went out again and found two Hebrews arguing.
Why are you hurting your brother?
Who appointed you leader over us? You live in the palace. Now you want to tell us what to do? Are you going to kill us too? Like you killed the Egyptian?
The silence answered before Moses did. The secret had been exposed, and quickly it reached the palace.
So he dared to raise his hand against an Egyptian. Bring Moses to me immediately! I want to see him before me.
What if he runs away, my lord?
Then kill him, and bring back the body. Let everyone know the fate of those who defy Egypt.
The order was given, and Moses knew. The palace was no longer a refuge. It was a sentence. Everything he had learned, all his training, all his preparation, could not save him now. And then he fled. Without title, without position, without a defined identity, just a man running, leaving power behind, and entering the void, the desert, where there is no palace, no structure, no recognition, only silence. And there, the man formed by Egypt would begin to be shaped by God, because what he learned in the palace would be used. But first, it needed to be broken. And in the desert, God transforms knowledge into purpose. And Moses fled, not as a prince, but as a man, without escort, without position, without destination. Egypt was left behind, power was left behind, the name was left behind. And ahead of him, only the desert, a place where there are no walls, no thrones, no voices that recognize who you were. Days became long. The sun burned without mercy. The sand shifted as if everything there was temporary. And Moses walked, carrying more than fatigue, carrying questions.
Where am I going? What will become of me?
No answer, because when God begins a process, He does not reveal everything at once. He reveals in the right time. And Moses kept going until his body no longer responded as before. His steps slowed. His strength was gone. And then he found water, a well. Not just relief, but a meeting point. There were others there, women, daughters of a priest. They came to draw water, but they were not in peace. Other men were already there, shepherds, stronger, more aggressive.
Get out of here! This well is for you!
We got here first. We have a right to the water.
Here, we're the ones in charge.
They stepped back, without strength, without protection. But Moses saw, and something within him responded again. Not the prince, not the man of Egypt, but something deeper. He rose and walked toward them.
Leave them alone. And who are you? Another foreigner trying to give orders.
The men laughed. Another stepped forward. One of them provoked him, but Moses did not step back.
They're not asking for it, they're within their rights.
Then come on and do something.
And in that moment, something became clear. He was no longer running. The men stepped back, not because of words, but because of his stance. And then, Moses did something simple. He drew water for them, for their flock, without asking for anything, without seeking recognition, just serving. And when they returned home, their father noticed.
Why did you come back so early today?
An Egyptian helped us. He rescued us from the shepherds and even drew water for us.
And where is he? Why did they leave him there? Call him. It's not fair that he's left alone.
And Moses was called. And for the first time since he left Egypt, he entered a place without fear. He sat, he ate, he heard voices, and that man, Jethro, watched him.
You're not an ordinary man, Moses.
I used to be someone. Today, I don't know who I am anymore.
Then perhaps it's time to find out.
The days began to pass, and Moses stayed, not out of obligation, but because there was nowhere to return, and little by little, a new life began. He rose with the sun, walked with the flock, learned the ways of the desert, where to find water, how to recognize danger, how to lead without force, only with direction. And there, he learned something Egypt had never taught him: dependence. Because in the desert, nothing happens by the strength of man. Everything depends on what is beyond him. The years passed, and Moses changed. The impulsive man became patient. The man who reacted learned to wait. The man who trusted in his own strength learned to trust in time. And with time, he built a new life. He married, he had a son, and when he named him, he revealed what he carried inside.
His name will be Gershom. I am a stranger in a foreign land.
Because he knew that place was not his final destination. It was only the process. And while Moses was being formed in silence, something was happening in Egypt. The people were still suffering. The days did not improve. The oppression did not cease. The weight increased. And then the cry began to rise, not as organized words, but as pain.
Lord, how long? Don't abandon us. Get up now!
And that cry rose. It crossed time. It crossed the silence and reached the heavens. Because the God who forms in the desert is the same who hears the cry. And in that moment, something began to move. Not in Egypt, but in the unseen. The time was being fulfilled. The hidden man would be called, and the silence was about to be broken. Moses remained in the desert, days the same, paths familiar, guiding the flock without knowing that he was being guided. Because there are moments when a man thinks he is simply living, but God is already directing every step. And on that day, nothing seemed different. The sun rose as always. The wind crossed the mountains. The desert remained unchanged. But there was something that Moses had not yet seen. He led the flock farther than usual, beyond the common paths, beyond what was familiar, until he reached a mountain, Horeb, the mountain of God. And there, something caught his attention. It was not a sound, it was not a voice, it was a sight, a fire, but not like any fire. A bush was burning. The flames rose, they moved, they consumed, but did not destroy. And Moses stopped.
I'll go there and
I need to see this up close.
He began to approach step by step, carefully, and the closer he came, the more he realized that what he was seeing was not natural, because the fire was not consuming the bush. Then the voice came, not from the wind, not from the ground, but from within the fire. "Moses, Moses." He answered, not fully understanding, yet unable to ignore it. "Here I am." And the voice continued, now carrying authority, now carrying holiness. "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." The air changed, the atmosphere changed, everything changed. And Moses understood. He was not standing before something, he was standing before someone. He lowered his face because he knew he could not look. And the voice declared, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." The words carried history, covenant, and promise. And in that moment, the past met the present. And Moses listened. "I have seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cry. I know their suffering." Every word was an answer to the silence, to the years, to the pain. But then the declaration shifted. It was no longer just revelation. It became a calling. "I came down to free them, and now I send you." Silence fell, because hearing God is one thing, but being sent by Him is another. Moses answered not with pride, not with readiness, but with doubt.
Who am I to go to Pharaoh? Who am I to take the people out of Egypt?
It was not a small question. It was real because he knew he had fled from that place, and now he was being told to return. But God answered, "I will be with you." Not an explanation, not a strategy, but presence. Still, Moses continued.
If I go to them and tell them that the God of their fathers sent me, they will ask, 'What is his name, and what will I say?'"
Then the answer came, not as a common name, not as a human title, but as revelation. "I am what I am." The words echoed, deep, eternal. "Tell the people, I am has sent me to you." Not a God, not an idea, but the living God, the one who is, who always was, and who always will be. Moses heard, but he still hesitated.
What if they don't believe me? What if they don't listen to my voice?
Then God answered not only with words, but with signs. "What do you have in your hand?"
A staff.
"Throw it on the ground." "Take it by the tail." He hesitated, but obeyed. And as soon as he touched it, it became a staff again. "That way they'll know that I appeared to you." But Moses was still struggling.
Sir, I am not eloquent. I don't know how to speak well. My tongue is heavy.
And God answered, now with firmness, "Who made man's mouth? Who makes him speak or be silent? Is it not I? Now go, I'll be watching your mouth, and I'll teach you what you should say."
My Lord, I am not worthy. Lord, send another.
And in that moment, the response came differently, more direct, more firm.
Your brother Aaron will speak for you. You will speak to him, and I will speak to both of you.
And then everything became clear. The calling was inevitable. The man who had fled was now being sent. The shepherd of the desert would become a deliverer. And God concluded,
"Go back to Egypt, for all those who sought to kill you are already dead."
Now there was no more excuse, only a decision. And Moses rose, no longer as a fugitive, but as one who was sent. Because when God calls, he does not merely speak, he transforms.
The desert still clung to his garments. The silence of Horeb still burned within him, and the voice that came from the bush still echoed in his spirit. The command had been given, and now the journey had to be made. Moses returned to his tent. He called his household, gathered what was necessary, and prepared to leave. Jethro listened to him in silence, with attention.
Let me go. I need to return to my brothers in Egypt. I want to see if they are still alive.
Jethro looked at him as one who understands that there is more behind the words than what is spoken aloud. And he simply answered,
Go in peace.
There were no long speeches, no resistance, because there are departures that cannot be stopped by men. Moses took his wife and his sons and began the journey back. But now every step carried something new: weight, calling, responsibility. The one who had fled empty was now returning filled with the Word of God. And yet within him, the struggle was not completely over, because obeying a calling does not instantly erase fear. His heart still remembered Egypt, still remembered the past, still remembered the throne. But above everything, the voice of God remained.
I will be with you.
And that had to be enough. Along the way, another part of the promise began to unfold. Aaron came to meet Moses in the wilderness at the mountain of God. Two brothers separated for years, reunited by purpose.
Moses.
Aaron.
Aaron.
They did not need many words because there are encounters that carry the weight of years. Moses told him everything: the bush, the voice, the name, the mission, the signs. Aaron listened without interrupting, absorbing every word. When Moses finished, silence settled between them.
So the Lord really appeared to you. The God of our fathers called me. He saw the affliction of the people. He heard their cry, and now he sends us. And what will we tell the people? We will tell them the truth. The Lord has visited us.
And so they went on, not as powerful men, not as warriors, but as messengers. When they arrived in Egypt, the weight of that place returned immediately. The streets, the walls, the weary faces, the bricks, the dust, nothing had changed. The pain was still there, heavier, older, deeper. Moses and Aaron gathered the elders of Israel, men marked by time, by loss, by oppression, men who had heard promises before and had seen suffering continue. Aaron spoke everything the Lord had said to Moses.
The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has visited us. He has seen your oppression, and he has said that he will take you out of this land.
Some lowered their heads, others lifted their eyes, hope mixed with fear. Then Moses performed the signs before them. The staff was thrown to the ground,
and became a serpent. His hand was placed inside his cloak and came out leprous, then restored. And that people, who had known nothing but the weight of the whip, now saw something different, a sign, not from Egypt, but from the living God. And they believed, they bowed, they worshipped, because they had heard that the Lord had visited them. But the mission had not yet reached the heart of the conflict. The people had heard, believed, and bowed. Now it was time to speak to Pharaoh. And Moses knew that would be the true confrontation, not just between men, but between kingdoms, between the throne of Egypt and the authority of the eternal God. Moses and Aaron entered. The palace was still imposing, still filled with the arrogance of men who believed themselves invincible. The columns were high, the guards alert, and everything in that place seemed to declare, Egypt rules here. But Moses was no longer the man who had fled. The desert had changed him, and now he carried something the palace did not understand, the word of the Lord. Before Pharaoh, Moses and Aaron stood. The king looked at them with disdain, with impatience. And then the message came.
Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, so that they may hold a festival for me in the desert.
The atmosphere shifted, not because Pharaoh was afraid, but because the name of God had been declared before the throne of Egypt.
Who is the Lord, that I should listen to his voice? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go.
The question was not innocent. It was defiance. It was contempt. It was pride speaking from the height of power. But Moses and Aaron stood their ground.
The God of the Hebrews has come to us. Let us go a 3 days' journey into the desert to sacrifice to the Lord our God. Why are you diverting the people from their work? Return to your task. These people are already too numerous, and you still want to make them rest.
The command came immediately, without delay, without mercy.
Give the people no more straw to make bricks. Let them gather it themselves. But demand the same quantity as before, not a single brick less. Yes, my lord.
And so, the first response of Pharaoh to the word of God was not surrender. It was increased oppression. The people went out to gather stubble. The urgency increased. The burden increased. The blows increased.
Fulfill your quota and finish the job! Pharaoh will not change his order because of you!
And then came the despair. The Hebrew foreman went to Pharaoh.
Why do you treat your servants like this? You give us no straw, and you still demand the same bricks. Your servants are being beaten.
You are lazy, all of you. That's why you keep saying, let's offer sacrifices to the Lord.
But sir, we no longer have the strength.
Enough!
There was no justice, no compassion, only hardness. And when the Hebrew foremen left, they found Moses and Aaron, and their pain turned into accusation.
May the Lord see you and judge you. You have made us odious in the eyes of Pharaoh. You have placed a sword in his hand to decree our end.
Their words struck Moses deeply, because now it was not only Pharaoh resisting, it was the people themselves questioning their deliverance. And Moses turned back to God.
Lord, why have you brought evil upon this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name. He has afflicted this people even more.
my Lord, and you have not delivered your people.
It was the cry of a man who had obeyed, but had not yet seen the result. And then the answer came.
Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. With a mighty hand, he will let my people go. With a mighty hand, he will drive them out of his land.
The confrontation had begun. It would not be quick. It would not be simple. But one thing was already established. The God who spoke in the fire was now beginning to act in Egypt. And the throne that believed itself absolute was about to discover that above it, there is a greater king. Moses returned before Pharaoh, not with new ideas, not with human arguments, but with the same word.
Thus says the Lord, let my people go.
Pharaoh did not rise. He did not move. He only answered with disdain.
Haven't I heard this before? You come to me. You speak of a God, and you want me to free those who serve me.
Do it.
Show them the power of Egypt.
But the magicians did the same. Their staffs also became serpents. For a moment, it seemed the same. But then, Moses' serpent advanced and swallowed the others.
But Pharaoh's heart remained firm, and he said,
This changes nothing. Nothing. I will not let the people go.
And then the judgment began. Stretch out your staff over the waters. And Moses obeyed, and the river was transformed. The water darkened, becoming thick and heavy, and it turned into blood. Fish began to die, rising to the surface lifeless, and the smell spread quickly, strong and suffocating. The banks were stained, the canals contaminated, the sources corrupted, and men dug desperately trying to find clean water. But there was none. Then the magicians of Egypt stepped forward and said,
See, my Lord, this is nothing. We can do this too.
And they imitated the sign, turning water into blood before Pharaoh, as if to say there was no difference. But there was, because they could imitate the judgment, yet they could not restore life, and the river remained dead. Still, Pharaoh hardened his heart and said no.
Nothing changes. No one leaves here without my permission!
And the judgment advanced. From that same river came an invasion. Frogs at first, few, then many, then countless. They leapt through the streets, invaded houses, climbed onto beds, entered ovens, and mixed with food. And all Egypt lost its rest.
Look! We can bring the frogs too!
And they did, but they could not remove them, and what began as a demonstration became an even greater affliction.
Pray to the Lord. Take this away, and I will let the people go.
Tell me when.
Tomorrow.
And so it was done. The frogs died, but they did not disappear. They were piled up in heaps, rotting under the sun, and the smell spread across the land. But when there was relief, Pharaoh changed his mind and said,
I will not let any Hebrew leave Egypt.
Then the dust of the was struck, and what had been invisible became torment. Insects came from the dust, from the ground, from the very earth, covering men and animals, entering the skin, the eyes, the body. The magicians tried, but they failed.
My lord, we cannot do this. This is the finger of God.
Yet Pharaoh did not listen. Then came the flies, dense swarms, dark and loud, filling the houses, covering the walls, invading the food, and the air became heavy, difficult to breathe. But there was a separation, for in the land of Israel there were no flies. Pharaoh called Moses and said,
Go. I allow you to sacrifice to your God, but remain in the land.
This is not right. We must go to the desert.
Then so be it, go. But don't go far, and pray for me.
But when the flies ceased, he went back on his word, and the judgment continued. A disease struck the livestock. Animals began to fall one after another. The fields became empty, and the sound of life faded away. But the livestock of Israel remained alive. Still Pharaoh would not yield. Then the very skin of the people was struck. Ashes were thrown into the air, and the wind carried them, and sores broke out, open wounds, painful and inflamed. Even the magicians could no longer stand before Moses, yet Pharaoh remained firm. Then the heavens responded with thunder and lightning and hail, heavy, violent, relentless, mixed with fire. Fields were destroyed, trees shattered, men wounded, animals killed, and Egypt trembled.
I have sinned this time. The Lord is just. I am guilty. Ask him to stop, and I will let you go. As soon as I leave, I will pray.
And the sky cleared, yet the heart did not change.
I will not allow it.
Then came the locusts, like a living cloud covering the sky, descending upon the land and consuming everything. Nothing remained, nothing was left. And Egypt became empty.
My lord, how long will this man be a ruin? Let these people go.
And Pharaoh called Moses and asked,
Who will go?
Everyone, young, sons, daughters, everyone. No one will be left behind.
No, only the men should go. The others will remain in Egypt.
But Moses did not yield. Then came the darkness, dense, heavy, impenetrable. For 3 days Egypt saw no light. Yet in Israel there was light. Pharaoh called again and said,
Go, but leave your flocks. Not even that will remain.
Get out of my presence! If you return, you will die!
So be it. I will not see his face again.
And the confrontation reached its limit. Only one thing remained, the final night. And Egypt did not yet know that the silence to come would be more terrible than any plague. Then came the final word, not like the others, not as a sign, but as a definitive judgment.
Thus says the Lord, this will be the last night. Throughout the land of Egypt, every firstborn will die, from the son of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the son of the servant, and even among the animals. Set apart a lamb, without blemish. Keep it until the appointed time, and at nightfall, you will sacrifice it. Take the blood and mark the doors of your houses. And what does that mean? When the Lord passes through the land, he will see the blood, and he will pass over that house. Death comes to Egypt tonight, but death will not enter where there is a sign. Eat the lamb roasted over the fire, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Eat in haste, with sandals on your feet, ready to depart.
The people began to move. Lambs were chosen, prepared, and sacrificed. The blood was placed on the doors with care and reverence. Families gathered inside their homes. Fathers looked at their children in silence, knowing that something was about to happen. Night fell, and Egypt grew silent, a heavy and unusual silence, as if the air itself were waiting. Inside the houses of Israel there was light, there was obedience, there was blood on the doors, and at midnight it came, without announcement, without sound, but with presence.
And death passed through the land, house by house, street by street. And where there was no blood, death entered.
The first cry broke the silence, sharp and desperate. Then another, and another, and another, until all Egypt awoke in pain. There was weeping in every house, despair in every family. No place was spared. And in the palace, the deepest blow fell. Pharaoh's son, his firstborn, the one who would inherit the throne, was dead. The king entered the room, and for the first time there was no command, no authority, only silence and loss. He approached, looked at his son, and everything he had held onto, pride, power, resistance, collapsed. There were no magicians, no answers, no power that could reverse what had been done, and Egypt was broken. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, but now not as a king, but as a defeated man.
Rise up, leave my people, you and the children of Israel. Go serve the Lord as you said. Take everything, your flocks, your families, and go. Bless me too.
And fear spread across the land.
The people moved without delay, without hesitation, carrying unleavened dough and gathering their belongings in haste. And for the first time in generations, they were leaving, not as fugitives, but as a free people. For that night, death had visited Egypt, but the promise rose in Israel, and the blood became a sign not only of protection, but of redemption. And the people departed not in silence, not hidden, but in motion, families, children, animals, and possessions, a multitude that for generations had known only slavery, now walking forward. But freedom was not yet safety, for while Israel advanced, something was happening in Egypt. Pharaoh awoke, not from pain, but from loss, and his counselors approached him, saying,
"Sir, what have we done? We let go of those who served us."
Silence fell, and then the hardened heart spoke again.
Prepare the chariots, summon the army. Today Israel will know who Pharaoh is. I will not let them escape.
What had been broken by pain now rose again in anger, and Egypt marched, horses, chariots, soldiers, a force organized, trained, relentless. Meanwhile, Israel continued forward, unaware of what was coming behind them, until someone saw it. First a line on the horizon, then dust, then movement, and the word spread.
They're coming! The army! Egypt is coming after us!
Fear seized the people. They looked back and saw the army. They looked ahead and saw the sea, vast, deep, with no path. And then desperation spoke.
Is this why you brought us out of Egypt? Weren't there any tombs there? Answer me, Moses! It would have been better to serve the Egyptians than to die here.
Their words struck Moses, but he did not answer with fear. He answered with faith.
Do not be afraid. Stand firm. See the deliverance of the Lord.
The people fell silent as he continued.
The Egyptians you see today, those very ones you fear so much, you will never see them again.
But the army kept advancing, the ground trembling under the horses, the sound of wheels echoing, and time was running out. Then God spoke.
Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to move forward.
Moses did not question. Even though there was a problem, ahead there was no path, only water. But the voice came again.
Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea.
And Moses obeyed. He raised the staff, and the heavens responded. The wind began, first gentle, then strong, then violent, a wind not of the earth, but from God Himself. The waters began to move, stirred, pressed, driven back, and then they parted, opening a path, dry, in the middle of the sea.
The people fell silent, standing before the impossible, becoming real. And Moses declared,
Do not be afraid! Advances!
And they moved. They walked between walls of water, high, immense, alive, while the ground beneath them was dry, each step a miracle.
Children crossed as parents held their hands, animals followed, and Israel passed through. But Egypt did not stop. Pharaoh saw it and made his decision.
Follow us! Let's go! Proceed! They are trapped!
And the army entered the same path. Yet that way was not meant for them. The wheels began to fail, the horses hesitated, the ground no longer held firm, and the soldiers cried out,
"Something is wrong.
Let's get out of here!"
But it was too late. God spoke again. "Stretch out your hand over the sea." And Moses obeyed. The waters returned with force, with weight, with judgment, and the path disappeared. The sea closed over chariots, horses, and soldiers. Everything was covered, nothing remained, and Egypt was silenced. On the other side, Israel stood, safe, alive, free. The people looked back and saw what God had done, and their fear turned into reverence, and they believed in the Lord and in Moses, because on that day, the impossible was not only seen, it was crossed. The God who judges also saves. The people moved on, the sea behind them, Egypt behind them, slavery behind them. But ahead, there was still a journey. The wilderness stretched out, vast, silent, unknown, and for the first time they had no chains, yet they also had no direction of their own, because freedom without God becomes confusion. So they walked. Days passed, and the desert began to speak. The heat pressed down, thirst increased, hunger grew, and the people began to murmur.
Why did you take us out of Egypt? We had food there. We had water there. It was better to die there than here.
Freedom itself began to be questioned. But God answered, not with immediate wrath, but with provision, saying, "I will rain bread from heaven." And in the morning, the ground was covered with something thin, white, unknown.
What is this, Moses?
It is the bread that the Lord gives you.
And they ate day after day, depending not on Egypt, but on God. And when they were thirsty, the rock was struck, and from it came water in the middle of the desert, because the God who delivers also sustains. And then they arrived before the mountain, Sinai, and the atmosphere changed. The sky darkened, the wind grew stronger, the sound began to rise, thunder and lightning, and the mountain trembled. The people stepped back in fear because this was not ordinary. This was the presence of God. Moses went up alone, and the voice spoke, "You have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you to myself." Then came the call, "If you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my people." A people set apart, chosen, consecrated. Moses came down and spoke to the people.
All that the Lord has said, will you do?
All that the Lord has spoken, we will do!
though they did not yet understand the weight of those words. Then God spoke again, not only to Moses, but to all, his voice echoing, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage."
And the commandments were declared. The people heard and trembled, because they weren't just hearing about God, they were hearing the voice of God, and they couldn't bear it.
Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not let God speak to us, or we will die.
And then Moses went up. He entered the cloud. He entered the presence. And there, in the midst of the fire, he received the words of the covenant, written on stone, firm, immutable. And Moses remained on the mountain days in the midst of the glory, in the midst of the presence. And then he descended. He called the people, he gathered the tribes, and he read, not as a man, but as the voice of what he had received.
Listen, this is the word of the Lord. I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, nor shall you bow down to them. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's goods.
Each word echoed, not as a common rule, but as eternal truth. And the people listened in silence, feeling the weight of what they were receiving. And then they answered with one voice, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do." But they still did not understand the weight of that answer. Even so, something had been established, a covenant between God and a people, not based on force, not based on merit, but on choice. Because the God who delivered from slavery now taught how to live in freedom. And Moses, the one who was placed in a basket, who grew up in a palace, who fled to the desert, who found God in the fire, now he was there, before the people, before the glory, before the purpose. No longer as a fugitive, no longer as a prince, but as a prophet. Because God doesn't choose only the strong, nor the most prepared. He chooses those who are willing and transforms. And what began with a cry now became a covenant, because the God who speaks also fulfills. And the story didn't end there. It only began.